Hey guys, welcome to our funding workshop. My name is Gavin Strunk, and I am the Student Allocations Committee Chair with the Student Governing Association here at K-State, and this is Andrew Lee. So we'll kind of get started tonight. If you want to switch to my presentation, probably. About who we are. All right, so I'm Gavin. I'm a junior in finance here at K-State, and as I already mentioned, I'm the chair of the Student Allocations Committee. And basically, I'm going to be giving a little presentation about what SAC is about, and then we'll be going through the form for that application, just to show you guys an example. You can switch view. There you go. All right, go ahead to the next slide. All right, so what does SAC do? So basically, we allocate to 3 different groups: campus-wide organizations, or registered student organizations, academic competition teams, and then sports clubs. And then those are kind of the amounts for each group. So for sports clubs, we have around $65,000. Academic competition teams, we allocate about $90,000. And then for other student organizations that are traveling or having on-campus events, we allocate about $39,000 a year. Yeah, so here are some of our general funding outlines and rules for SAC funding. So applications have to be submitted about 35 days in advance. That's a pretty hard deadline. Any requests for events held between December 1st and February 15th must be submitted by 4 p.m. on the first Friday in November. Any requests for events held between April 1st and September 30th must be submitted by midnight on the first Friday in February. And then for SAC travel funding, the limit is $150 per student up to $1,500 for an individual travel event. And then it must have educational value or professional value, and then food will most likely not be funded. No, you're good. All right, so what does the SAC application process look like? So there's really 2 main ways to get to the form. So the first way is to go to Funding Opportunities in Org Central, which we're going to show that a little bit later. And then another way would be to email me, of course. And then on the Kansas State University Student Governing Association website, there's a funding page, and you'll also find my information, but also the link to the application through there. And then sports clubs and ACTs, club officers should get an email from me. And if not, please contact me, and I can definitely send you the link for the application. And then this is kind of just what the process looks like. So basically, when you send in an application, I will get a notification, and then I'm able to set up a meeting for you guys to come to my committee and present. So you'll just give a short presentation, usually maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then a little bit of questioning after that, of just what you're requesting funding for, and say assorted information about that. And then the committee will make a decision, usually that night, and then I'll send out an email, usually the next day, about the committee's decision. And then the committee will write legislation, which is then introduced to Senate that week on Thursday. And then once it's introduced, it gets sent back to our committee. We'll usually refer it out favorably, and then the next week, Senate will usually approve. And then basically, it becomes a departmental accounting, or our lovely accountant, Amy, will handle some of the funding. So yeah, I think we'll leave time for questions later, but that's my information if you guys ever need it. And it's also on the website. And with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew for right now.
Awesome. Well, hi, guys. Thanks so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you guys for taking time out of your night to spend it with me. Here, me and Gavin here in the Wildcat Chambers. Woo! Yeah, so again, I'm Andrew Lee. I am the chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee in SGA. I'm a second-year student studying political science, minor in lead studies with a secondary major in global food systems leadership. So yeah, I'm excited that you guys are all here. And so yeah, I'll basically go to talk to you guys about what the DIB committee kind of does, but more so, how can your student organization get money from our committee specifically? So we do, so you can hit the next slide, yeah. So the DIB committee is tasked with 2 things. Not only do we look at issues and analyzing issues on campus that kind of revolve around diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, any accessibility issues. But we also manage DPF. So DPF is what we call diversity programming funds. And so basically the request for on-campus projects that provide an educational value that kind of promote a cross-cultural learning experience or education on the topics of diversity, inclusion, discrimination based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, disability, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, geographic location, or age. So it's kind of a really big, broad term as DIV generally is. And so it, again, allows us as a committee to be more creative and intuitive about the ways that we kind of interpret different presentations and different requests. So yeah, so basically, we get an annual budget of $137,734, and so this is kind of breaks down our funding. So each student, most of you guys here are students. You guys pay a student services fee, and about 4% of that is the student activity fee, which feeds into how much of that 37% of that 4% goes straight to our committee, and so from then we will be able to allocate that as well. So your student service fee dollars help fund SGA and help fund different cool stuff on campus and throughout the university. So the funding process for DIB is kind of similar to Gavin's. You'll basically fill out the DPF funding request form on Org Central. Me and our advisors we will look and see if one of the organization is allowed to be able to apply for it, meaning they're either affiliated or a sponsor or registered with the SPI. And falls within funding guidelines. I'll schedule a presentation date with you guys, so I'll reach out to you by email and saying, hey, this is the date that I would like for you guys to come in to present to our committee, and then you'll present. That presentation will usually last you're given about 10 minutes with 5 minutes of questioning. Recently, it's been going by really quickly, so again, you get those full 15 minutes, and then the committee will ask you questions. We'll decide funding that night, and basically I will inform you within the next 24 hours of the decision of the committee. I will then sign off all the paperwork, give it to Amy, and you guys will get instructions in your email basically stating how are you as an organization going to get your money, or how much money did you get, and it's super trivial, and then you get your money, so it's super easy. So basically, funding regulations-wise, what we can and cannot fund. So we can do promotional materials, so flyers are a good example of that. We can fund lectures, speakers, and entertainers. And so, for instance, last year we funded George Takai, who came to campus to talk about his K-State First book. Space rental and equipment. So if you're renting like the courtyard or whatnot, we are able to fund that. Culturally relevant films, food that adds to the intercultural learning environment, and then we also just added rented clothing as well. But what we can't fund is we can't fund social events. So if you're having a big party, can't do that. Personal materials, plaques, gifts, awards, flowers, or name tags, can't fund that. We can't fund wages unless required by the rental facility. We can't fund recruitment activities, and we can't fund non-culturally relevant food. So if you're hosting an event and trying to order McDonald's for your event, wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, you hit the next one. So funding guidelines wise, again, your organization has to be registered with the Student Office of Student Programs and Involvement, just right across the hallway here. Your event must provide a cross-cultural learning experience. It should be held on campus and hosted primarily for K-State students, and it should be free and open to all students. And so when it goes back to the cross-cultural learning experience, again, that's up to you guys as an organization to kind of make your argument there in front of the committee as to why it is valuable and why DIB funding should go towards it. But again, deadlines are kind of similar as well. Any requests for events held April 1st through September 30th, they got to be submitted by the first Friday in February. So if you're planning out until next year, make sure to submit that application by the first Friday in February. For this semester, events held through December 1st through February 15th got to be submitted by the first Friday in November. So that's about 2 months, in about 2 months or so. So if you're having an events in the winter and up until January or February, just make sure to get it done by November. Yes. So before submitting the application, again, double check, make sure you got your criteria all filled out. The budget section, so if people who previously filled out the DPF application, there's been a change to it. I'm now asking that you upload an itemized budget. Again, that just makes things easier on our end so that we're able to calculate, all the things that you're trying to ask for, and it makes it easier for you guys because it makes it easier for you guys to present in front of the committee. So it works out. People have done Excel sheets. People have drawn out their budgets and just uploaded a picture of it. So again, make sure that's filled out correctly. Double check the do's and don'ts of funding regulations. Luckily, on the application itself, it's super straightforward. Not only is this presentation on that application, but other tips and tricks are on there as well while you work through that application. And then, of course, I'm always open. My door is always open, so feel free to email me or contact me if you want me to proofread it at all, just to make sure that you're not going to run into any issues when you do finally present in front of the committee. I'm willing to do that for everybody. But yeah, again, we'll leave questions for the end. Do you want to talk about questions now? You want to do questions now? Yeah. So again, this is my email, aqle@kcu.edu, or email our advisor, Mirta Chavez, who is the Assistant Vice President for Student Belonging and Inclusion in Anderson Hall. If you have any questions at all, yeah. So I guess I'll just start the floor. Are there any initial questions at all about DPF funding? Yeah.
What if your event falls under not one of those two date ranges? Because I've noticed that there's the events don't happen March or for example.
Yeah, for sure. Then they just falls back to the 35-day rule. So you have to apply 35 days prior.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we know we have an event in the second semester, should we just wait to apply for funding until the second semester, or should we go ahead and do it now?
It's really up to you guys as an organization. The later you wait, the less likely it'll be that it just depends on how fast you want to get your money. So some committees have really put on the edge. Amy, do you want to?
Yeah, the deal is it's only a pot of money, so once it's gone, it's gone. So
I would do this, as soon as you have a date, I would apply.
Yeah, sooner than possible. And we consider on a rolling basis. So all my applications that come in, I put them on my Excel sheet to schedule them out. So.
And then does SAC for traveling, it's 1,500 total?
It's 1,500 for the total year, and it can be split up between two travel events, but it is not two events at 1,500. So.
I have a question more about what could really be funding. So my organization normally, our main activities is travel around to do some service related things. And I was wondering if, for example, the few weekend that can be funding or not, should be only at K-State.
For travel?
Yeah.
So DPF funding, we cannot fund any travel. It's primarily for events. Student allocations.
Yeah, we can fund travel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So on yours, is there a upper limit of the cut us off on what to request? How much to request?
Well,
is there a maximum amount?
the max is 1,500 for travel, and
Yeah.
then for a non-campus event,
For me,
Yes.
you can request $1 million more.
Sweet.
Yeah, we don't have $1 million.
I know.
Yeah, there's no cap.
Okay.
anybody else?
What was your email again?
It's Gavin Strunk, GAVINSTRUNK @ksu.edu. Yeah.
So we're a karate club, so it's martial arts. Obviously, goes into that cross-cultural experience element. If we are doing something that's not held on campus, but that is a travel and experience for the club members, that's more of an intensive immersion experience, is that something that would be eligible for funding? And if so, where would that fall between these two categories?
That would be something you'd apply through SAC for.
Okay, so that would be considered travel?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're hosting a workshop or something on campus, then that's something different.
Any other questions? Okay, cool. Do we want to go through to the website?
Yes.
Here, do you want to go yours first or my first? Okay. And then do you want to use this?
All right. I feel like a radio announcer. Hold on. So, cool stuff, guys. Let me tell you, the Student Governing Association recently got an updated website on. So it's basically you can do ksu.edu/SGA and you'll land here. You can learn more about what our organization is and what we do, our accomplishments, all that. But the cool stuff is you can actually find all the information you need about funding here under the funding tab for your organizations. So I'm going to start with mine, the diversity program, just because I'm the DIB chair. But basically, all the information that I've kind of presented today to you guys is all available online on the SJA website. So it kind of just talks about, what things we can and cannot fund. The applications found in my emails here as well. And then it dives more into the regulations. And if you're really, really into reading, you can also read the full funding guidelines here, which is just a bunch of our statutes. The deadlines are listed here, and then also the appeals process is also here as well. But yeah, that's the DIB aspect of it. If Gavin wants to talk about the student allocation side. Yeah.
All right, so kind of similar. You go to the student allocations page, and then you get a brief overview of SAC, and then our regulations, which we just updated those on here. And then also, what it can be used for, what it cannot be used for. This should take us to the statutes as well. And then we just have the same deadlines as well. And then we have the link to the request form. Yeah. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, and so the nice part about the new updated website is that things are more accessible than they were in the past. And so I guess that's just the big mission of SJA in general, is that we just want to make sure that our funding opportunities are open and available to everyone, and that everyone should be aware of it. But I guess, do we have a question in the chat? Veronica, do you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, guys. I can turn on my video. Hello, so you can see me here.
Yeah, it's all good.
I wanted to ask you about the topics that you were like the cross-cultural learning experience. What within that would be more interesting for you, or what do you have in mind about cross-cultural learning?
Yeah, I guess I can talk about a recent example. I guess two examples really. So like for instance, there's a group on campus that's requested money to do an event that that kind of ties into their folk religion and what their cultural norms are back at home, and just kind of bringing that celebration here with the food, the rituals, and all of that. And that provides a cross-cultural learning experience just because not many folks experience that culture or are born in that culture, and so being able to share that with everyone at K-State is super interesting. I'm Vietnamese, and so I celebrate Lunar New Year. A lot of folks in the room don't celebrate Lunar New Year, and so whenever OSU put on that event last year, like that's again a cross-cultural learning experience, just being able to share your culture with other people or educate other people about what your culture kind of has.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Veronica. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go into the application. Yeah.
Just click the application from the website.
Oh yes.
Otherwise they view it from your point of view.
Yes. So this is gonna be, I can go through the DPF application process.
Maybe.
If it works. Okay. Super easy. So here is the request that you kind of see on Org Central. There's a group called Funding Opportunities. Funding Opportunities on Org Central. That's where all the SJA funding stuff is there. And so if you're not a part of that group on Org Central, I highly recommend that you just join it so that you have access to all the information that you need and you get all the updates. So again, the DPF funding form is. Do we have any questions at all so far? Great. So the DPF, again, application is super straightforward. Funding guidelines here, this is just the presentation, deadlines, all this, I'll skip all this. You walk through here. Basically, you'll provide your group's registered at SPI, it'll be here. You just put in your basic contact information and then your K-State advisor. Let's pretend I'm the Alzheimer's buddies. There you go. And then this is the project information, so name of the event, you kind of put the date, again, 35 days, 35 days. The location of the event, kind of just describe what your event is kind of doing, how many people do you think are going to show up? Again, making the argument of how your project provides a cross-cultural learning experience here. Again, you can further dive into that during the presentation process, just your promotional aspect of it. Are you coordinating with other campus organizations? That happens a lot. And then any other additional information you want to provide, feel free to do that. And then, ooh, this is a big part, budget, my favorite part. So again, it dives into the nitty gritty of what we can fund and what we cannot fund. So what I did in the presentation was kind of slim down. These are the meats and potatoes of it. So of what the advertising kind of looks like, what lectures or speakers we can fund, films, food, what food we can and cannot fund. Again, just more definition really of what we can and cannot fund here. So yeah. So basically, it will ask you if your organization's received funding from the DPF fund in the past 2 years. I believe the statute is that Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, DPF cannot fund the same group more than twice in a year or 3 times in a year?
I think it is twice.
Twice in a year, yeah, okay. Personal expenses, so basically, it's super straightforward. Let's say I have this is the fee, these are the credentials. Am I renting space? No. No films, no wages, and then this is the most important part, uploading your itemized list of supplies and their costs. So again, breaking down what your estimated costs are going to be, what supplies you're going to be using, what things you're just going to kind of need, and then uploading that file on here, and then I'll have access to it, and I'll be able to download it from there. And then you'll just put your total amount here. So I'm going to request $10 for this event, and call that good. Oh, well, yeah, you have to upload something. So let's upload Gavin's presentation. Oh, it doesn't work. What a shame. You think, is there a document on here? There's gotta be. No. Okay, well that's basically, that's kind of basically it from there. From that point, and then it's just, I sign my name because I'm the person that's filling out this application. I understand what I'm doing and the process of it. And then again, throughout this whole application process, like my contact information is there. If you ever get stumped on something or just want to sit down and chat about this, I'm willing to do that and hop on a Zoom call with you guys. I want to make sure that you guys are not going into this blind, and I'm able to help you in any way that I can. But yeah, that's the DPF application process. Yes, Amy?
One thing, you see that green bar at the top?
Yes.
Make sure it gets to 100%, because you have to make sure you submit.
Yes, yes, yes. Do check the bar here. Yes, some people leave it at get to 90 and then just stop because they think they submitted it, but there's constant reminders of, are you sure you want to submit this now? So yeah, we'll go ahead and hit Gavin's little form here.
All right, so yeah, so going to the student allocations request form. So if you click there, all right, so this will take you to this year's request form. So basically here you'll do the same thing where you'll select a group, and then you will, say who's in charge of that. Provide a phone number. Ooh, never mind, don't have that on. There we go. Ooh, that might actually you actually have to have a person. So then, the phone number, you'll select your group advisor. And then, now this is kind of an interesting part of the form is you'll kind of get slightly different prompts, but very similar prompts as far as if you select on-campus event or travel. So we'll just select travel for these purposes. So then basically here's some basic funding information, kind of some of the stuff we've talked about. Title of the event, first day of travel, last day of travel, the destination. Then this, how you're going to get there, how far away it is, or if you're flying, and then the number of students you have going. So in that, but yeah, just another important rule to remember though is that it is $150 per person up to 10 students. So you can always bring more than 10 students, but you're not going to get more than $1,500. So we get to the educational value and itinerary section. So basically you'll want to talk a little bit about, the educational value to the students of your organization. And then have you been to the same event in the past? Let's say you haven't. And then a brief itinerary, which we don't have anything to upload. hang on. We're gonna get this to work. It'll work if I close this. There we go. Okay, well, that isn't working. What should we do about that? Because my form is like much. I can just sign it on my side.
Well, let me download a Word document. How about that? There it is. Okay, great.
Fantastic thinking there by Andrew. All right, so then we'll go to the next page. So basically here you'll be able to break down your expenses for travel. So yeah, if you do apply, please do break it down like airfare, lodging, etc. This is where you could upload an expense file if that were to be easier for you. And then your total amount that you're requesting, so let's just say $1,500. And this is just if you're requesting the full amount of your event to be covered by SAC. So let's say no. All right, so yeah, it's quite the form. So then we have educational value again. It's just another educational value section. It's because in the on-campus event side of it, that first educational value, I believe, is the only time it asks for educational value. So if you're applying for travel, you can always just put the same thing, but please fill it out. Okay, so then we'll talk about basically, you know, has your organization done any fundraising? So let's just say you haven't, and are you, do you have any expected funds that you're going to use towards this event? Let's say you do, and actually let's say no. So then, has your organization received other funds or expect to receive other funds during the academic year? But, you know, like basically department funding, and then, you know, your total previous funds that you intend to use for this event from fundraising. All right, so then this is just kind of like some housekeeping things like, how did you hear about this? How could we make this form more accessible? And then you understand, it's a lot of those like you understand things. Yeah, this is the signature. And then, yeah, you certified, you acknowledge, you click next. And then this is just for internal use, so you guys won't see that.
That's it.
So yeah, any questions on either of the forms so far?
For travel, one of the questions was number of students. What happens if the number changes? If we had 12 people, but then one decides that they're not going, and that number changes after funding has been allocated or the application has been reviewed.
Well, if it had been already allocated, if you were being honest, you wouldn't really use the money. But Amy, what do you think?
So, well, it depends on if you're sponsored
Or
by a
affiliated.
department or affiliated.
If you're affiliated, you'll just pick up a check, and if you're sponsored, it's reimbursement through your department.
Affiliated, that would mean if you had 10 students who are going to go, but only 9 left, then you would write a check back to SGA so that we can put it back. If you're sponsored, it's a reimbursement process, or sort of a reimbursement process. So we would know that only 9 students went rather than 10.
So the difference is with the sponsored, that's through the department or something, and so you would just never have that first step of here's your funding, as opposed to if it's an affiliated student organization where you receive funding and then we would then return the difference.
Correct.
Okay.
It's handled 2 different ways.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Any other? Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. For travel, you said the maximum was $1,500. What about for on-campus event?
We technically have no limit, but keep in mind that our whole budget is $39,000 for the whole year of allocations. So
Yeah.
you're not, yeah.
The reason I asked that is because I think you mentioned before an organization can only get funded twice.
For travel, I think in the statutes it says technically you could be funded up to 5 with only 2 being travel.
Okay.
So
And it's different for DEIB. DEIB is just twice in an academic year.
Right. And I was just wondering if the travel and the on-campus were gonna, let's just say that you had a total of $5,000 any organization could get in total for any kind of event. But you just answered my question. There isn't. And I had a second one, which is, I guess the amounts don't differ if you are a sponsored.
no.
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
All right. Yeah.
So the organization I'm a part of, we're planning on performing an event during the summer. For students who graduate in the spring, could they still ask for funding or not for that event?
Which day in the summer?
I don't have like a specific one, just because I didn't write it down. I can go look
The
it up.
only reason I ask is summer we run into a different fiscal year on July 1st.
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, you could apply for it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else? For
Took a test about fiscal years.
What?
I just took a test about fiscal years.
Oh. Sure.
I had one more, if no one else. Educational benefit, right? So for this SAC one, is that just educational benefit specific to your students, to your organization, or do we
No, it's to the students of your organization. So let's say you're going to Minneapolis for a national convention, and you're going to do workshops there. You're going to have professional development. That would be educational value.
My question is more because you said that should be cross-culture, and if you are thinking to do, like, for example, in my department, we want to do about a topic and invite a speaker,
Mhm.
to, I don't know, let's talk about, I don't know, rooms, whatever.
Yeah.
How can we do that way to be cross-culture? Because it's more about a topic, it's not about culture, right? So
Mhm.
how can we get the funding for that type of events?
Yeah, no, I think 100% we will be able to consider that. I think it's in the basis of who you're going to be inviting and what they're going to be talking about. We've funded plenty of speakers in the past that have touched on, they may not be, for instance, there was a group last year that's inviting a former Congressional Hill staffer, right? And they're talking about how policy affects diversity, equity, inclusion. So it's just a matter of who the speaker is and what kind of topics they'll be talking about, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yes.
On what basis is the SAC funding awarded? Is it going to be, is it 35 days in advance as well?
No. So as long as you apply 35 days in advance, then it's basically goes through that process that I spoke about. So I'll schedule your presentation, which usually, if you apply early in the week, it's that Sunday. So you'll come give the presentation. It'll be introduced to Senate that next week. And then the next week, it'll be in final action. And then it'll be approved or denied by Senate. And then after that, your funds should be made available in fairly short order. But it still may take like a few weeks.
Unless it's those 2 time periods.
Yeah.
April.
Any other questions?
Any suggestions on what makes a good application?
Just for SAC, a lot like educational value, like, if it is clearly like going to help, your organization's professional development or help them gain skills, then I would say that definitely helps.
I would say for DEIB, the presentation is much more important just because, so I guess for context, like we as a committee can only make decisions based on what is on the application that's been submitted. But again, there have been countless times where groups will come in not prepared. They'll have a great application, but they just are not prepared to explain the reasons why their event should have DEIB funding. And so again, just making sure that you're well prepared I would recommend having like a slide of some sort, just to kind of resonate with the committee members, and kind of contextualize what you're talking about. Because it's not just me being a part of this process, it's 18 other people that are also involved in voting to fund it or to not fund it.
Yeah, and on that point, I would say like an important key difference between DEIB and SAC is also that our allocations have to pass Senate and yours do not.
Yep.
So. Any other questions? Anybody? All right.
Okay. Well,
Hi.
yeah. Yes, Veronica. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Veronica here. I wanted to ask you if also the speaker and the topic it's also relevant for the DIB.
Wait, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, if also for the DEIB, the speaker, for example, if you want to make an event that also involves, I don't know, any kind of speaker about a topic related to that.
Yeah, you would 100% be able to do that. Is I have a topic, I have an event that kind of also features the speaker as well. Yes.
Okay, so like a kind of mixture, like an event where there is interaction or something representing directly any kind of activity directly involving students in cross-cultural learning, and also accompanied with any kind of speaking or any speaker who is talking about a related topic.
I think I think to contextualize it more, I think a good example is I don't know who's minoring in Spanish, but like I know the Spanish department does like the Cafe Ole on Wednesdays. Like I think that's kind of a good example of that. Is like you have a speaker, not only are they talking about where they're from and what their background is and their culture, but also it's a get together of students that are interested in learning about it and kind of being interactive. So yeah, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Great. Well, if you have any questions at all, we'll be hanging around here for a little bit. Thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. I appreciate you guys. We will have another funding workshop next semester. Yeah, so if you want a refresher, feel free, or just feel free to contact us.
Or feel free to bring people.
Yes, bring other people. Yes. So thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Jason. I am the person. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we applied for funding last week, and we got accepted for next month. And we filled everything out. We had our advisor fill everything out. We still haven't received for this year. For this yeah. And I've been emailing Carson Prestra, but is he still doing this type of stuff? No, I haven't.
Would they still be eligible for funding?
We're supposed to.
So I would down.
Okay.
Because I heard her.
Okay, cool.
So that could happen.
I didn't know if people had already done it or if we were late.
No, I think I would go and ask her. I think spring semester.
Last year? Yeah. Okay, I was actually the one who gave it last year. But I think I was giving it to Carson. If I'm not mistaken.
So we were. And then also,
Yeah, so that was
2025 or the next school year?
Yeah, it's for the next fiscal year.
So like
so you should get money. And that, again, you got allocated money for spring or fall last year.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if you apply now, that money. We don't plan to travel. Yeah. So
And that's different than SAC.
So did you just get like a general allocation or like the actual sports club?
It was actual sports club.
So, yeah,
Because we were applying with all of the other sports clubs, we presented with all the other sports clubs. Were there.
And I think I remember that because I think I was there too.
Okay.
So I would, yeah.
I don't think so.
Yes.
DJ.
I'm also the treasurer.
Yeah.
Signed Institute of America. We're an affiliated student chapter. We're affiliated with the G.E. Johnson Department of Construction Science and Architecture and Engineering. We have a trip in the spring that we're going to do, and I would apply for that by February.
Yeah, I would do it just I do think our money which it usually does every year, so.
Somebody from.
We've been recording that, so it's like, those are your entertaining. They're there.
It's good, you can email me, because for that funding, that's due,
Yeah, you can do a workshop or whatnot. This is kind of broad. And again, it's not
Yeah. Would it be inappropriate
Will
for me
it-
to present the same presentation as last year, because we still have the same needs as
not really,
Yeah.
I would just make sure it's updated.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I will respond.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I guess I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I have the date of the event. It's in
Okay.
September, so would people who graduate in spring be eligible or not for funding?
Use this as a resource.
I think so.
Okay.
Think so?
But, I would have to ask you about that.
Derek, yeah.
I looked at this.
You were?
I'll be honest with you.
What are you a grad?
I don't always have the special.
I've graduated.
You graduated?
Oh, so what day is
It'll be September 28th to 20.
Okay, so you guys have to submit
By
by
February.
February first, correct?
Oh, you're from man? Okay.
So, yeah, and then that
Oh.
would be.
Okay.
Another question is, so
Why'd you come to
we can apply for funding for equipment and stuff, right?
Right.
So we are Japanese dance.
How long were you in the
Oh,
office?
Yes, Sequoia.
You're fine.
I was wondering if we could apply for equipment that might pay you.
I'm from Wichita, so it's a little bit of a step down. Oh, really?
Where you done that, you've only done that for sports clubs and ACTs. So, probably not. At least at this point. But, we'll see, that could change.
Oh, okay. I'll be back in town. Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
girlfriend
Yeah,
goes to
no problem.
Wichita
Great to
State,
meet you guys.
so. Yeah, no, I go there pretty often. I don't have to visit.
Hi.
Yes, and is there anything that we have to sign in past?
There you
Had to make sure that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
go. Of course,
We're just wanted to bring people in.
Because we did have one year that somebody had forgotten to sign in, and so it's like, oh, well, you never attended any training, so we're pulling your club status. I was like, no, wait,
That's
no.
weird.
And that wasn't under your
not
tenure,
in-
but we
No,
did
no, no,
double
no.
check that.
No, I've only been in this position.
Where do I go?
since, I guess
It's like, I know, welcome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it usually works. Usually you're,
What am I supposed to?
1 year as part of that.
Pretty important, I can't start the process till I know.
So yeah, so.
I have a question that's tangentially related, but while we're on the subject of good standing, can an organization have more than one advisor? Does that advisor need to be faculty?
Because
So maybe staff.
when it comes to what we
Well, I think
whatever money
that's
you
more
spend.
like a STI level
Okay.
with them,
Yeah,
but
okay.
obviously if you have one advisor who's
Maybe government has
staff
that.
faculty, then I don't think there's a limit on having another advisor, that's totally fine.
Because our faculty member is retired after 35 plus years.
Oh, so you guys need to change?
Well,
Or,
although she was checking into it, that she might still be able to be our advisor.
oh, okay, yeah. So I think how that would work, in which I'm not really the expert on this, but I'm pretty sure you'll still definitely need like an active probably faculty or staff member, but then that, I mean, I'm sure that advisor's definitely welcome to, certainly help out.
Yeah.
We've had questions about that in the past, about people outside of the organization, key advisors. And I don't see any problem with it as long as you have at least one faculty or staff.
All right, so faculty could be faculty or staff.
I would.
But don't,
Get the final word.
not legal
Yeah,
advice, all of
people
that.
like, Sarah Hyman yeah, in which you guys can always just